down the field to Theon Kane, and he collects it for a Clemson touchdown. Some in the pocket, shoots it downfield for Kane again, who makes a diving catch for a touchdown. And taking a shot, losing the ball. Clemson's got it. Watson kicks it, pitches it across the middle. Touchdown, Williams. Forsyth out of the backfield, didn't see him and throws a pick. Slant to Scott. Fights free and walks in. A 1-2 punch from the Tigers.
Any win over South Carolina would qualify as one of Clemson's greatest games for a lot of Clemson fans. So it's important for that reason. But also, remember, Clemson had lost a game to Pitt just 2 weeks previously. So if they wanted to have the chance to go and play for a national championship, this was a must-win game. And they also had to win this game decisively to get the attention of the playoff committee.
And I do remember in the post-game locker room after the Pittsburgh loss that Dabo Swinney was still in a positive light. I mean, it was a wild game. It was a crazy game.
After we lose the Pitt, that was just embarrassing for us. I mean, a game that it should have never been close, but we ended up losing.
And I think what was interesting about this game is the effect that the Pitt loss had on the whole team. Not only was it an unexpected loss, Clemson was heavy favorites, but also it was senior day. So all those seniors that were recognized, from Jordan Leggett, Ben Boulware, Carlos Watkins, but also the juniors that had announced that they were going to go pro: Deshaun Watson, Wayne Gallman, Artavis Scott, Mike Williams. So I think they had an extra bit of motivation knowing that they wanted to finish their career at Clemson on a winning note and win big.
We come out 2 weeks prior, lose to an underrated Pitt team. I just remember before the game just thinking, man, these guys, I mean, they don't know what is about to come. I mean, they really don't, because we're still upset. We know that we've got to send a message. It's a rivalry game. You're already amped up about that, about the whole hype, through the whole week. And I mean, we were just fired up, ready to go.
There's always that heightened sense of, right, this is a big game. No matter what the records are of the opponent, this one has, as Coach Swinney likes to say, a little more juice to it. And it certainly does. I mean, it's bragging rights.
So we're 10-1 going into the week, and we know South Carolina can't stand to see us having this much success and have a chance to play in the college football playoffs. So we knew in their mind, they're like, oh, we're gonna crash this party. And we knew they were going to do anything. They were going to try to do anything to kind of throw us off our game, maybe get a penalty or two, just kind of get us out of the Clemson way. And so all that was kind of going into the game. And at the end of the day, no matter what our record is, when we play these rivalry games, that's not something you really think about, because anybody can win.
Going into that game, they always say, man, it don't matter what your record is. It don't matter what you've done up until this time. When it's rivalry week, it's 0-0. It don't matter what it is. We like, this is the last chance that we're going to get to beat these boys. And if we don't, it's going to be a lot of talking.
The messages that the coaches give us South Carolina week is different from any other week, because of South Carolina. No matter how good they are, they're they're nonstop sending the messages that this is South Carolina week. So it's not really too much the coaches have to do. Once you're in the Clemson program and you feel that energy of rivalry week, you kind of just wake up in a bad mood.
We know if we lose this game, the college playoffs for us is over. And that's all the motivation that we needed. It wasn't nothing that they did. We already knew we was the better team. We knew we would win. We just could not give them any hope.
Yeah, so 2016, my senior year, is my last game playing South Carolina. And going into the week, we were just obviously preparing like we normally would, but we were aware that they were a pretty bad team.
Deshaun Watson had made it clear that one of his goals at Clemson was to never lose to South Carolina. He'd beaten them in 2014 to end the streak. He'd beaten them again decisively in 2015. So this was important for Deshaun to close out his Clemson career with his third straight win over South Carolina, so he could be undefeated against the Gamecocks. So this was important for Deshaun to be able to go out on his terms, on a winning note, and be able to celebrate with a fantastic crowd in Clemson at the culmination of his home career.
So now he's trying to go 3-0. And if you don't think that was part of the driving factor behind Deshaun Watson, you'd be sadly mistaken, because it was. He wanted to make sure that he finished his career unblemished against the rival.
Founders Federal Credit Union is your credit union. We are devoted to serving you through good and bad, and through highs and lows. We are committed to standing by you, our members, our communities, our family. Together, we can persevere through these times. We are your credit union, and we are here for you. Relax with Founders Federal Credit Union.
Roto-Rooter Zero Contact Service is your assurance that we're putting safety first. On the job, we'll keep a safe distance, wear boot covers, face masks, disposable gloves, and other protective gear. We're following CDC guidelines, washing hands, and disinfecting touch points. And we'll put on fresh gloves before handling your paperwork and credit cards. You can depend on Roto-Rooter to lead the way in safety with Zero Contact Service.
My dad was a Cuban refugee, and school wasn't really an option for him. He'd always encourage me and my sisters. He'd say, try different things, If you want to be an artist, if you want to be a painter or musician, go for it. Because I received a South Carolina Education Lottery Scholarship, I didn't have to worry about the bulk of my tuition. And that's priceless.
Well, you could definitely feel the energy in the stadium, and even before the game, it's the anticipation. It's a night game, it's the rival, and you know that Clemson needs to set the tone, not only for this game, but also just for the nation, to show that that Pittsburgh loss was a fluke and getting ready for the ACC championship and hopefully a run in the college football playoffs. And I can tell you, sitting there, you knew that the Tigers had to come out hitting on all cylinders, and that's just what they did.
Here, Watson taking a shot, going for Williams. Williams comes down with it. An incredible catch. Touchdown, Clemson.
It's a lot of energy in that stadium when it's that week. It's packed out, and we had the all orange on. And you had some legendary seniors, and Mike Williams, and Deshaun Watson, Wayne Gallman, Jordan Leggett, a lot of big-time guys that helped change the program.
We get out there, they start running their mouth, per usual. We're trying to be respectful throughout the week, even though we knew, deep down, this is going to be bad. They were who we thought we were. They were just, it was varsity versus the C team. It wasn't even JV. They were the 8th grade C team.
The first 2 drives go for touchdowns. Mike Williams is already beginning to put on a show in the first quarter of play. Deshaun seems to be at his best. I mean, his game is spot on. And Clemson is, throwing the ball all over the field. They're running the ball everywhere. And South Carolina just didn't like they had any answers whatsoever.
We just could not give them any hope. So we just took the life out of them early. We left no doubt that we was the better team and that we deserved it.
Well, Clemson was dominant from the get-go, and that included Deshaun Watson and Mike Williams, who had a terrific game, but especially in that first quarter, they connected on 2 touchdown passes to give Clemson a 14-0 lead. The second of whom was a kind of a slant pattern that Watson hit Williams.
And then all of a sudden, I was like, man, I didn't know that Mike's dreads were that long. And then I soon realized that those aren't Mike's dreads. That's the dude on top of him that he's carrying in the end zone.
Watson off play action. Hits Williams inside the 5. Williams carries defenders into the end zone. Touchdown.
That shows in that game the will and the want to of how bad you want to beat the other team and how bad you want to embarrass the other team.
You had, obviously, the Mike Williams touchdown that came where he literally carried at least one Gamecock defender and then into the end zone. And then really inside the 5, there were 3 or 4 others that were trying to gang up on him, and he just wasn't going to go down.
Mike is a man among boys. Man, dude by 6'8". Man, they're that play that he made against South Carolina, we had a buddy on his back. I mean, what can you say? You can't do nothing about it. He tried his best, and he couldn't do it. That's just a will want to, man.
When Mike Williams carries a grown man on his back into the end zone, it ignites this energy throughout the team and defense, because at the end of the day, we want it to be as disrespectful but respectfully as possible. So for us to see him carry a grown man into the end zone, it doesn't get any worse than that.
I felt bad for the young guy, because I mean, a lot of people see that play, they always revert back to that play when he dragging the dude.
Mike Dubb carried a guy in the end zone. I had a pretty good game. Was prepared, and it was fun because we just, I think by like halftime or third quarter, we had our subs in, and we were still just demolishing them.
Clemson was flexing its muscles early on in the contest, and the wave just really started to build, and I think that's what kind of carried it the rest of the way.
On 3rd and 4, Watson fires complete. Williams is free in the middle of the field. Williams to the end zone. His 3rd touchdown of the first half.
Williams became the first Clemson player to have 3 touchdown receptions in a game against South Carolina.
Well, I think at halftime the mindset was not slow down. It was pedal to the metal, and there was almost talk around the fans that how many records are going to be broken today? And I think that was the same type of mindset that the players had as well. They wanted to come out the second half and continue to showcase what they were made of.
Roto-Rooter Zero Contact Service is your assurance that we're putting safety first. On the job, we'll keep a safe distance, wear boot covers, face masks, disposable gloves, and other protective gear. We're following CDC guidelines, washing hands, and disinfecting touch points. And we'll put on fresh gloves before handling your paperwork and credit cards. You can depend on Roto-Rooter to lead the way in safety with Zero Contact Service.
Don't wait for tomorrow. Make the days count. Gatorade has carbs to fuel and electrolytes to help replenish, so you can count on the proven formula. Nothing beats Gatorade.
The touchdown right before the end of the half. Again, Mike Williams doing damage and again breaking tackles and getting into the end zone. I mean, with like about 7 seconds, I think, to go in the first half, that puts Clemson up 34-0, extra point 35-0 at halftime, and the dagger was thrown. I mean, we're right there. You just knew that, the last 30 minutes of this game were going to be, all right, how big can this get to be?
My uncle used to always say, my Uncle Doug used to always say, we know we're going to win the game. We don't know. We just don't know how much we're going to win by. And I'm telling you, we just had so much fire behind us, man. It ain't no cockiness. It ain't none of that stuff. It's just like we knew what we had and we knew what we had to do. And the goal was to get to the playoffs and win the championship. And we knew we wasn't going to be denied of that, especially not by South Carolina. And we knew as rivalry, we can't be beat by that team down there. And we just had to do what we had to do and just take care of our business. 35-0 at halftime. We know for sure they wasn't coming back. They ain't have enough.
Clemson was dominating, and Coach Swinney went in that locker room, and you knew that coming out of that locker room that things weren't going to change. He wasn't going to let it change. That he wanted to see them finish it off in dominating fashion, and they did.
I think by halfway through the third quarter, we could sense that, like, man, this is going to be like a legendary victory for Clemson against South Carolina. Just the margin in the points, how bad we blew them out, and we were just kind of chasing. We wanted the offense to keep scoring, and the defense really didn't want to come off the field because we didn't want them to score. And so that was just our mindset, like, how can we get the biggest win of all time against these guys?
Against Clemson, they expect him to get a heavy dose as the season continues.
Watson, another perfect pass. Touchdown, C.J. Fuller.
Clemson was not only dominating offensively, people want to look at that, they were dominating defensively as well. South Carolina didn't have as many total yards as Clemson had rushing in the game. Clemson had 250 yards rushing in the contest, and South Carolina, I think, had 212 total in the contest. Jake Bentley was just being bottled up. He went, 7 for 17 in the contest. The only touchdown pass that South Carolina had came from a wide receiver, came from Deebo Samuel in the second half.
So now you've got all of these Tigers that have scored. Wayne Gallman, Mike Williams, Jordan Leggett, Deshaun Watson, but there's still one guy that still hasn't scored, and he's a crucial part of the team, and that's Artavis Scott. And I think the whole fan base wanted Artavis to score, to go out on not only a winning note, but just to be able to celebrate what he's been able to accomplish. And sure enough, his roommate, Deshaun Watson, made sure he was able to get into the end zone.
I'm like, man, I ain't even scored yet. And I think Coach Scott he kind of sensed that or something, man. Coach Scott looking at me like, hey, I don't tell you, he's scoring. This could possibly be his last game in Death Valley. And he looking, and he like, take up, go in the game. Deshaun, he looking at me, I'm like, dang, this boy about to throw this ball over here. I seen him move the running back to the opposite side. I'm looking at him, he looking at me. I'm like, oh yeah, this ball coming.
Throwing a fade, jump ball, touchdown, Artavis Scott. Another flag is down.
Watson would continue his outstanding passing in the second half, and he threw 3 more touchdown passes, giving him 6 for the game, tying his own Clemson record for total touchdown passes in a game. He was the first Clemson quarterback to throw 6 against South Carolina, and he finished the day 27 of 33 passing. So he had 6 incompletions and 6 touchdown passes in the game. A remarkable statistical accomplishment.
Spotlight. This has become a national brand. And it appears as though they're going to continue for the foreseeable future.
Bryant to the end zone. Touchdown. 55 points for Clemson against its rival.
So I think all the Clemson fans watching this blowout, sitting there thinking, could you design this game any better? I mean, it's your rival. You beat your rival, not only beat them, but you beat them in dominant fashion, getting ready for the next phase of what Dabo Swinney calls the championship phase. And this just set the tone for the Tigers heading into the ACC championship and ultimately the college football playoff.
Roto-Rooter Zero Contact Service is your assurance that we're putting safety first. On the job, we'll keep a safe distance, wear boot covers, face masks, disposable gloves, and other protective gear. We're following CDC guidelines, washing hands, and disinfecting touch points. And we'll put on fresh gloves before handling your paperwork and credit cards. You can depend on Roto-Rooter to lead the way in safety with Zero Contact Service.
So what makes your house a home?
Sitting on the front porch, relaxing at the end of the day.
Hands down, my wife's spaghetti.
A sense of security.
I'd say making it my own.
Playing with my son, definitely.
For whatever makes your house a home, we're here to protect it.
My dad was a Cuban refugee, and school wasn't really an option for him. He'd always encourage me and my sisters. He'd say, try different things, you know? If you want to be an artist, if you want to be a painter or musician, go for it. Because I received a South Carolina education lottery scholarship, I didn't have to worry about the bulk of my tuition. And that's priceless.
It was a party this entire football game. I mean, Clemson came out as heavy favorites in the game. I think Clemson Nation, knowing this was going to be the last game for the seniors and some of the juniors, everyone was expecting a Clemson win. They come out and get the big lead early. The party begins, right? Everyone was celebrating. I felt like the last 3 quarters of this football game was like a dance party. You're hugging the people around you. You're high-fiving. You're thinking about the ACC championship game, and you're celebrating 12 more months of dominance over the Gamecocks.
2 weeks before we lost to Pittsburgh, we were expecting all year to be undefeated and easily get to the national championship right back where we left off. We lost that game, and we knew like it was going to be a close run to hopefully get back in the playoffs. So we know we had to have a statement game against South Carolina, and to do it against them, against our rival, and blow them up by almost 50 points, it set the tone for the playoff, gave us confidence that we needed, and put us back on track to finally win the national championship.
It was funny because, yes, there was celebration about, okay, hey, we're state champs again, we have state bragging rights, but there was also that feeling that, okay, this one's done, regular season is now behind us, and it's time to focus on the championship phase of what is ahead of us. Clemson, it didn't take them long at all to get refocused on an ACC championship game. And then they put all their efforts into that. Not that they didn't celebrate the win over South Carolina, they did. But there was almost that sense around Coach Sweeney and around some of the players, this is done. What is next? Let's go take care of the next order of business.
A lot of South Carolina fans didn't like me at all because I just ran my mouth a little bit, and so I get it. And to go out the way we did, and then half the game that I did, they just kind of shut them up. Like, you couldn't say anything about it. So I after the game, I had a post-game interview, and I let them know. Like, it's the last. I was like, it's my senior year. I'm not playing y'all anymore. And I just went off, which I don't regret at all. I feel the way I feel. I'm not a fan of South Carolina. My blood runs orange. So it was a fun night to cap off my senior year.
We're just in there having a good time, cutting up, talking smack, up big on your rival. It's fun to get to talk smack and, just kind of have that last curtain call, because that's our last time with a paw on our helmet, being out in Death Valley on the field. And, getting to do it that way in that game and the way that it ended up with a big win over your rival is a lot of fun. And just sitting there and saying, man, we won the state championship, now let's go win the national championship. It was a lot of fun.
It was a little bit controversial, right? I don't think the Gamecock fan base was very appreciative of some late timeouts being called in this ball game to celebrate the Clemson seniors and juniors that would be leaving the program. But for me as a fan and being in the stadium, it was this incredible swell of emotion in the stadium as a lot of the seniors on the offensive line in this big senior class. And then you take the four juniors, right? You've got Gallman, you've got Scott, you've got Williams and Deshaun Watson. A final chance to say farewell to these guys. I got goosebumps in the stadium when they did it.
And Dabo Sweeney embracing his quarterback, Deshaun Watson. Even though Watson a true junior, this is his final home game.
I think that most everybody that walked into that stadium knew that this was going to be Deshaun Watson's final game in Clemson. And so I think that added a little bit more respect to it. I think that added a little more excitement to it for the Clemson fan base. By that time, this was a young man that was really building his resume, so to speak, at Clemson. And so this was something that he would add to his resume. To go 3-0 against South Carolina, not a lot of quarterbacks have been able to do that.
I remember Deshaun standing there just blowing kisses to the crowd at the end, and you knew that was going to be his last time in Death Valley. It was the perfect way to go out.